If your computer groans every time you open your photos, freezes when you try to scroll, or makes you dread importing anything new, you are not imagining it. There are real reasons this happens, and most of them are fixable. I hear this all the time. A computer that used to feel fine suddenly feels slow, stressed, and on the verge of giving up, especially when photos are involved. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common reasons computers struggle with photos, what's actually happening behind the scenes, and the practical things that you can do to make everything feel calmer and faster again. And make sure you stay to the end, because I'll share one simple change that often makes an immediate difference, even on older computers. Reason 1. Your storage is almost full. One of the most common reasons computers slow down with photos is simply the main drive is nearly full. When your computer doesn't have enough free space, it doesn't have room for temporary files, photo previews, caches, and background processors. When that space disappears, everything starts to slow down. Opening photos, scrolling, importing, all of it. Start by checking how full your main drive is. As a rough guide, aim to keep at least 20 to 25% free space. This gives your computer enough room to work properly. If you're working with photos and videos, moving large libraries off your main drive, ideally onto an external hard drive, can make a noticeable difference. And when you do delete things, do it intentionally. Focus on apps you no longer use, large downloads, or duplicate files, rather than randomly deleting bits and hoping for the best. To find and review your storage situation is different on a PC and a Mac. On Windows, go to the search box and type in Storage Settings, and then select the app. Allow it to have access to your computer. You'll see categories showing what's taking up your computer's storage. Click on Temporary Files, select the options you want to run, and delete whatever items you no longer need. Also, look at your installed apps. I like to sort by size with the largest at the top, and then click on the menu, the triple dots next to any program you're no longer using, and choose to uninstall it. You can also just click on Cleanup Recommendations for quick suggestions. Finally, click on Storage Sense and toggle on the feature to ensure it keeps looking for things to delete and keeps your system running smoothly. On a Mac, go to the Apple menu in the top left corner, then System Settings, and then General, then Storage. You'll find a list showing categories of items taking up storage space. Click on the I button to access each category. For messages, you can select and delete any photos and videos you don't need anymore. For applications, you can uninstall any that you're not using and take up too much space. I like to sort them by size to see the biggest space hoggers on my computer. Also, open your trash to permanently delete anything in your trash can. That is a big one that people often miss. Reason 2, too much is running in the background. Your computer's struggle with photos is simply that they are doing too many things at once. Behind the scenes, your computer is often juggling cloud syncing, backups, browsers full of tabs, emails, messaging apps, and background updates. On their own, those things usually tick along quietly, but when you start working with photos, scrolling, importing, or opening a large library, it can tip everything over the edge. Photos are resource heavy. They need memory, processing power, and disk access. If all of that is already being shared between lots of other tasks, things start to feel slow very quickly. Close any apps you're not actively using, especially photo apps you don't need open at the same time. Cut down on browser tabs. They use far more resources than most people realize. If you can pause cloud syncing or backups while you're working with photos and let those run later instead. And it sounds simple, but restarting your computer occasionally really does help. It clears out background processes that have been quietly building up and gives everything a clean slate. Often, just giving your computer a few jobs to do at once makes photo work feel so much smoother. Reason 3, your computer is using an old type of drive. Slow photo performance is commonly due to the type of drive your computer is using. Older computers and some external hard drives still use traditional spinning hard drives. These physically spin to read and write data, which makes them much slower, especially when you're working with larger photo libraries. Photo apps don't just open images, they constantly read previews, update databases, and access metadata in the background. On a spinning drive, all of that creates delays. Scrolling feels laggy, imports take longer, and everything feels way more effort than it should be. Solid-state drives, often called SSDs, work very differently. There are no moving parts, so data can be accessed almost instantly. That makes a huge difference when you're browsing, searching, or organizing photos. What helps here is making sure your photo library lives on a fast drive. If possible, move your photo library to a solid-state drive, especially if it's currently sitting on an older internal drive or a slow external one. If you're buying a new computer, make sure it uses an SSD rather than a traditional hard drive is one of the most important choices you can make. And if you're using external hard drives, try to avoid using older, slow drives as your main working location. They're fine for long-term storage or backup, but they're not ideal for day-to-day photo organizing. Reason 4, photo libraries are more demanding than you realize. Every time you scroll, search, or make a small change, the software is updating previews, building caches, and reading metadata. All of that work adds up, especially in large libraries. This is why a photo app can feel slow even when you're not actively editing anything. The computer is still busy keeping the library organized and up to date in the background. What helps here is giving the software time and space to do that work properly. After importing a large batch of photos, let the app finish indexing before you start scrolling or making lots of changes. Avoid opening multiple photo libraries at the same time, as that increases the workload significantly. And keeping your library organized really does make a difference. When photos are roughly in order and unnecessary clutter is reduced, the software doesn't have to work as hard to keep everything running smoothly. Once you understand that photo apps are effectively running a small database in the background, a lot of this behavior starts to make sense. Reason 5, videos and duplicates are quietly causing problems. Another reason computers slow down with photo libraries is something people often don't notice at first: videos and duplicates. Videos are much larger and more resource heavy than photos. Even short clips take up a lot of storage and need more processing power when previews are created or when software scans the library in the background. When lots of videos sit alongside photos you're trying to organize, they can quietly add extra strain. Duplicates create a different kind of problem. They increase storage use, but they also make photo apps work harder than necessary. The software still has to read them, index them, and build previews, even though they add no real value to your collection. What helps here is being selective and gradual. If you have videos you don't need to access day to day, consider moving them to an external hard drive, so they're safe but not constantly slowing things down. You don't have to delete them, just move them out the way. When it comes to duplicates, this is not something you need to tackle all at once. Deduplicating gradually is far more manageable. There are tools designed specifically to help with this, such as Duplicate Cleaner Pro on the PC or Photo Sweeper on the Mac, which can identify likely duplicates and let you decide what stays. The key idea is to keep just one working copy of each photo in your main library. Everything else either gets archived elsewhere or removed, so your computer isn't doing extra work for no benefit. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this explains why things are slow, but my photo library already feels overwhelming, that's exactly what I help with inside my Photo Mess Success courses. They're focused specifically on digital photo organizing, and they walk you step by step through getting your photos sorted, reducing duplicates, setting up storage properly, and keeping everything manageable long term without needing to be particularly technical. If you want a clear structure to follow instead of trying to fix things piecemeal, you can find all the details at photomesssuccess.co.uk. Right, Let's carry on because there are a couple more reasons this slowdown happens. Reason 6, space isn't being freed up properly. Even after deleting a few things, the space often isn't being freed up in a meaningful way, which is why computers stay slow. Deleting the odd file here and there can feel productive, but it rarely touches the real issue. The biggest space users are usually hidden in places people don't check regularly. Large photo libraries, video folders, downloads, old backups, and leftover app files. This is why storage can still feel full even after a so-called clear out. It's also worth remembering that deleting files doesn't always reclaim the space straight away. On both Windows and Mac, files sit in the recycle bin or trash can until it's empty. Until that happens, the space isn't actually being freed up. What makes the biggest difference is focusing on large folders first: photos, videos, downloads, and applications. Moving or organizing a large library frees up far more space than deleting a dozen small files. Some people also use tools to help visualize where the space is going. On a Mac, Clean My Mac can highlight large or leftover files. On a PC, WinDirStat and TreeSizeFree do a similar job. They don't fix the problem for you, but they make the biggest space hogs visible, which is often half the battle. Reason 7, external drives aren't being used or aren't being used well. A major performance drain I see is when everything still lives on the computer's internal drive. That internal storage is already doing a lot of work, running the operating system, managing apps, handling background processes, and then it's also expected to cope with large photo and video libraries. That's a heavy load, and it's where many computers start to struggle. A fast external solid-state drive works well as a main working drive for your photo library. It gives you the speed you need for browsing and organizing without clogging up your internal storage. Alongside that, a separate external drive should be used purely for backups. That way, the working photos stay fast and responsive while everything is still protected if something goes wrong. How you use external drives matter too. Make sure they are properly connected before you work and always eject them safely before unplugging them. Disconnecting drives without ejecting can lead to corruption, which causes performance issues and, in worst cases, data loss. Reason 8, you've hit your computer's hardware limits. Sometimes the slowdown isn't about settings or storage anymore, it's about limits. Every computer has a ceiling. Older processors, limited RAM, and aging hardware can only handle so much, and modern photo apps are far more demanding than they used to be. Larger libraries, higher resolution photos, and constant background indexing all add up. Using external storage to move larger libraries off internal storage can reduce the strain and extend a computer's useful life. Simplifying what lives on the machine and giving it fewer jobs often helps more than people expect. But if performance is still poor after everything else is in place, it may be time to plan an upgrade. Calmly and deliberately, not urgently and not because everything is broken, but because your needs have grown. Bonus tip: separate your working photos from everything else. Now for that bonus tip. Here's the simple change that often makes an immediate difference, even on older computers. Don't try to work on your entire photo collection at once. Instead, separate out the photos you're actively organizing or editing right now from the rest of your library. When photo apps only have to deal with a smaller working set, fewer photos, fewer videos, fewer previews, everything feels faster. That might mean working on 1 year or decade at a time, creating a temporary working folder or library, moving older finished photos out of the way while you focus. You're not deleting anything. You're not changing your long-term setup. You're just reducing the load while you work. This one change alone often transforms how a computer feels because you're giving it fewer jobs to do at once. And that's something even older machines really appreciate. Your computer shouldn't be the thing standing between you and your memories. Most of the time, a few calm changes make a bigger difference than people expect. And if you want to continue your photo organizing journey, then check out this video next, all about if you really need a new computer to organize photos. It'll help you decide whether an upgrade is actually necessary or if your current setup just needs a rethink. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more photo organizing tips. Have fun rediscovering your memories. I'll see you in my next video.